Hey everyone, welcome to This Explainer. Today we are going to completely redefine what comes to mind when you hear the word entrepreneur. Forget the traditional image of high-rise corporate startups and Silicon Valley tech unicorns for a minute. We're going to look at enterprise as a really powerful, dynamic force for both global and grassroots change. We are exploring the expanding face of enterprise and how wonderfully diverse and impactful modern entrepreneurship has truly become. Okay, let's dive right into this. We're going to break this down into 4 key areas. First, empowering rural communities. Second, the rise of women entrepreneurs. Third, purpose, people, and planet. And finally, culture, tech, and global markets. All right, kicking things off with part 1, empowering rural communities. To really grasp grassroots empowerment, we've kind of got to toss out that traditional corporate mindset. Consider this. Nearly 70% of India's population lives in rural villages. 70%. That's huge. So when the vast majority of a nation is rural, creating ventures within these communities isn't just some charitable side project. It is literally the engine needed to stabilize and grow the entire economy. You know, rural areas usually face this really stark imbalance, a severe shortage of capital, but a massive abundance of labor. Well, rural entrepreneurship totally flips the script on that. By using local raw materials, these ventures generate jobs right away and give rural youth actual opportunities. And this creates this amazing ripple effect. It earns foreign exchange through traditional exports, helps balance regional growth, and this is absolutely crucial. It puts the brakes on that desperate migration to overcrowded cities because people can finally build sustainable livelihoods right at home. Let's ground this in a real-world story because that always helps. Take Kameshwar Prasad from a village in Bihar. Instead of packing up and moving to a city, he looked around his own community and spotted a really pressing problem, a lack of reliable electricity. So, taking a pretty modest risk of about 15,000 rupees, he started providing trial rechargeable solar lanterns to his neighbors. He solved a local headache, proved there was a market, and directly lifted up his community's standard of living. It's just brilliant. Moving right along to part 2, the rise of women entrepreneurs. So, women make up roughly 48% of the population, right? But historically, the number of women founders has really lagged behind, mostly because of some deep-seated societal inequalities. The good news? That is definitely changing. But true empowerment requires structure. Just look at the state policy definition. A woman enterprise requires a minimum 51% capital ownership, and it mandates giving at least 51% of the generated jobs to other women. I mean, that perfectly illustrates that it's not just about opening a shop, it's about institutionalizing community upliftment. So what's actually fueling this incredible momentum? Well, it often starts with a deep internal desire for an independent life, or honestly, just pure economic necessity. But that internal drive is meeting some massive external support now. We're talking increasing technical literacy, specialized vocational education, and shifting family support. And crucially, government initiatives like the Aspire scheme, along with incubator networks, are handing women the exact financial backing they need to shatter those old hurdles and take a leap into business. All right, that brings us to part 3, purpose, people, and planet. This is where we really elevate the story from local empowerment to broad societal transformation. Think about traditional entrepreneurship for a second. It's mostly about creating private value, right? You know, maximizing profits for shareholders. But social and ecopreneurship, they demand a lot more. Yes, these businesses absolutely still need to survive economically. They're not charities, but their core mission is to create immense social or environmental value alongside that private wealth. They are out there relentlessly chasing solutions to human and ecological needs that everyone else just ignores. A perfect example of this is Anshu Gupta, the founder of Gunj. He zeroed in on a critical, totally unaddressed hygiene need for women in villages and slums who simply couldn't afford sanitary napkins. Instead of taking the usual corporate route, his social enterprise innovated MyPads. These are affordable, fully biodegradable cloth pads. And actually, he didn't even stop there. He empowered those same communities by leveraging these solutions to fund even larger disaster relief efforts. It's basically a masterclass in social innovation. Now, when that social concern shifts specifically to the environment, we get what are called ecopreneurs. These are visionaries who want to make a profit, sure, but they're equally driven by an urgent need to heal our planet. Take water scarcity. It's a massive issue. Well, one ecopreneurial venture created the Boongru DIY well system. It's a remarkably simple innovation, but it has successfully irrigated over 2.2 lakh hectares of dry farmland in Gujarat. That means abundant water and way less soil salinity. This is, quite literally, business that heals the earth. Let's move on to our final section, Part 4, Culture, Tech, and Global Markets. Here is where we see modern business adding some really unique, scalable value in highly specialized niches. First up, cultural entrepreneurs. These are the folks who figure out how to weave cultural factors into a self-sustaining business model. By monetizing things like vibrant regional festivals, specialized exhibitions, and entertainment events, they aren't just making a buck, they are actively making sure that rich cultural heritage survives and thrives for future generations. It's a real win-win. Next, we have techno-entrepreneurs. As you might guess, these individuals put emerging technologies right at the absolute core of their business model. Through lightning-fast research and development, they capture economic value by just offering vastly better solutions. These are your classic market disruptors. They're using tech as their main lever to solve stubborn problems and literally force progress forward. Closely related to that is heritage and tourism entrepreneurship. This is all about packaging historical sites and preservation efforts into highly valued travel experiences. Preserving history is incredibly expensive, right? But by creating massive commercial appeal for tourists who want an authentic experience, these entrepreneurs ensure that preservation work is economically viable and, most importantly, continuously funded. And finally, almost all of these dimensions can scale all the way up into international entrepreneurship, which simply means offering products and services across state borders. It perfectly shows off the modern reach of commerce today. Because with the right institutional support, even those rural artisans we talked about earlier, they can enter global markets. They can earn valuable foreign exchange and scale their impact internationally. The local truly becomes global, creating this beautifully interconnected economic ecosystem. Wow, okay, we've covered a lot of ground today in this explainer. We've mapped out the expanding face of enterprise, from empowering rural villages to saving the planet to reaching global markets, all of which leaves us with one really vital question. Which dimension of modern entrepreneurship will you step into to shape the future? Seriously, take a second and think about how these concepts could apply to your own potential to make a real impact. Thank you so much for joining me, and as always, keep learning.